So the question comes up all the time, man, which one do you like better and why? So I want to get into a little bit of the comparisons between the two. Now, I've done this before, but I want to get into more of why I like it better, like mentally, right? It's not so much of a horsepower, like this does this. And personally, why do I prefer one or the other? So I want to go ahead and just kind of cut to the chase. I don't want to like lead you guys on here. They're both great, okay? I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now, they're both wonderful. It just comes down to your setup. So what is it that I like about the turbo car? Well, obviously the freaking power. The power potential that this car makes with the turbo. Oh, by the way, guys, this is a 347 Trick Flow 11R 205cc heads, 750 carburetor blow through. So there's your setup. Nothing crazy, right? But the potential this car has for horsepower is absolutely through the roof compared to that setup over there. Now these cars obviously act a lot different. You know, you got the turbo car with a little bit of boost lag, and when it comes in, it's just raw. I mean, it's just tearing hell loose, right? Driving around, it makes really cool noises and things like that. Versus this car over here, and also this car. Both of these we'll put in the same category. But with this car over here, you drive it around, and it is just instant rowdy power, just instant. Now, I've had this question come up a lot, and people say, yeah, but a supercharger is reactive off of RPM, right? That's how it makes boost. It doesn't make boost off of load. So how does this car hit so much harder, as you're claiming, than this car? Hell, I don't know. No, truth be known, here's the deal. If you have this car up around 2,000, 2,500, somewhere in there or higher, and you're running, say, in first gear, and you stomp this thing, it instantly is going to start making boost because the RPM is already up. It's just blowing boost off up until that point. When you crack the throttle open and the boost bypass closes, you're making instant boost. So guys, when you step on this thing at 2,500, 3,500 RPMs, it's already making boost right now. And then it just continues to climb to where this car, yes, you can brake boost it and you can lug it, but you're also probably not going to be in as high of an RPM range as you would be with this car. Does that make sense? So if we're cruising along and this car is at 1,500, 2,000 RPM, and we kind of brake boost it, it's still not going to hit as violently as this car would at, say, the same RPM. It just typically doesn't. Now the boost on this car will come in like a freight train, but that instant raw, almost like all motor hit, this doesn't have like a supercharged car. And just so we don't leave this car out of the equation, let's go up here and talk about it as well. So this is an automatic car, and it's the same principle. The boost is instant. It's like part of your engine, okay? Think of a supercharged 302. Compare it more to a big block. It has instant torque, instant power, and you don't realize that it's coming from another source. So it doesn't feel like it has a power adder on it. It feels more like it's just a big cubic inch, ready to go motor. That's the way this thing feels. I don't know how else to explain it to you. There is no feel of the boost coming in or anything like that. This car just makes more power in a linear fashion, and you just don't notice like a hit that's harder, or either the fact that it creeps in with boost later on. It just all feels natural. That's one of the biggest things that I'll say about a supercharged setup like this, is it just feels like it's part of the engine. It's to where a turbo, you know that thing's there and you know it's working for you. When you first put your foot in it, it may not be impressive, but give it a minute and it's gonna come to life. So daily driving these cars, they're completely different, but they're just as drivable as the other. It just really depends on what it is that you want. If you like a turbo and like the noises that a turbo makes, and I don't know, that's just your thing, then by all means, a turbo is perfect. If you like the cool sounds at idle, like a supercharger makes, then go that route. Here's the funny thing about these two cars. This car makes noise at idle, and then whenever you're cruising down the road or you step on it, the noise goes away, right? The whine from the supercharger kind of goes away. Yes, you can hear a little bit of it, but not much. This car does not make any noise at idle and at cruising, but as soon as you touch the throttle, it starts to make cool turbo noises. And of course, once you get on it, you can hear this thing spooling up. So at idle, no noise. At idle, a lot of noise. Cruising, no noise. Cruising, all the noise. So there's that. They just react a little differently, that's all. When driving this car, you know that on motor, like part of the time you're driving a turbo car, you're not driving around with any boost. You're just pretty much on motor, and you feel that. Like, you feel the fact that this car is a 347 with just heads and a cam, right? As you go to get into it, it's like something just kicks it in its ass, and here we go. So they're just different feelings. This car right here, the Supercharger feels like it's part of the engine. I know I've said that in about 5 different ways, but truly, that's the way I feel about these things. One is not better than the other, guys. Personally, I just don't like all the piping and everything that goes in with the intercooler and all that type stuff with a turbo setup. But here's something to note. If you're running a blow-through setup, you really don't even have to run an intercooler. Why is that? Well, because of the waterfall effect in the top of this carburetor, this thing will be pretty much ice cold at idle. So while this thing's sitting there just idling or you're just cruising around, it starts to get really cold. It's like a radiator, essentially, a just waterfall of gas. So as the air comes through, it just essentially just cools itself off without the need of an intercooler. Now, it's always good to be able to run an intercooler, which we do have on this car. That's going to allow you to run even more timing because the charge is going to be so cool. On a fuel injected car, you're going to need this intercooler. You pretty much got to have it, okay? And that's just more piping and more places that things can leak. Now, comparing the two installs, this is going to be the hardest install if you're running an intercooler. If not, it's actually a pretty easy install. This car over here is going to be the easiest. Very simple brackets, very simple setup. Nothing ties into your exhaust, so I like that. Now, this car over here is not an easy install, or as easy. I would say that the turbo is the hardest, and then this one is right in line with that. There's a lot more piping. There's a lot more going on with the Renegade brackets and things like that. This is a T trim on this car. That's an S trim. So with all that being said, that's my take on the two cars, right? The differences between it. Like I said, one is not better than the other. I just need to clear that up because I have people ask all the time, why are you going all supercharged now? You know, we just put a supercharger on Michael's car and we took the turbo off of it, and people have questions. It's just preference, guys. He likes the instant torque, the instant sound, everything about the supercharged car. He just likes that more. I don't know. So he's happier with the Supercharger. I personally have no intentions of taking the turbo off this car and supercharging it. Maybe at some point, like a YSI would be really cool in this car, but turbo's just fine, guys. I have no issue with it. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. Love what you love, like what you like, drive what you drive. Enjoy life, guys. And as always, thanks for watching.